lesson today, the target was I can use strategies to multiply 2-digit by 1-digit whole numbers. So as you're looking at your student work today, out of the 5 questions, which questions did you see that the students had the most success with? And why do you think that?
1 and 3.
And why do you say 1 and 3?
I feel like they're,
The factors they gave them are easy to
and they were,
distribute, to decompose.
yep, and they were straightforward.
Yeah, very similar to our whole group lesson.
Yeah.
Yes. So like 4 times 60 for number 1, they either broke it apart by 4, 2 times 60, 2 times 60, or 4 times 30, 4 times 30, and it's just an easy multiplication.
A lot of mine did like the warm up because it said, I can't remember, I think the warm up did 50 times 3. So they did 5 times 3 and then kind of added that
The half.
special 0. Yeah. So a lot of mine did that.
Yes.
I think-
did that too.
I don't know about you guys, did you have a couple kids get confused about number 2? I don't know, I think the chart threw them off. They saw the number 9 and then they were like, what do I do? And I was like, let's read the question again, shirts. And they were like, oh. So I think like the chart with the 3 numbers, for whatever reason, threw some of them off. But as soon as I like brought them back to the chart, they were okay.
Yeah, I think that's a common problem where they're not, when they see a chart, they flip out and they don't realize they have to get information from the chart
Yep.
used in the question.
Yep.
So I think that one's they struggle with that kind of problem
'Cause
throughout
there's-
all objectives.
Yeah, they're so used to seeing the 2 numbers
Uh-huh.
in the problem, or 3 numbers and having to know that they have to.
Or they also
Dig
don't
one out.
underline what they need,
Mm-hmm.
the info.
So what would be a good way for them, for you to model for them or to reteach them to attack that problem? Or
We go
similar problems like that?
We go through cubes, so the
Cubes.
strategy of how to look for the numbers that you need and keywords and underlying questions. So I think that would kind of give them a place to start.
And even
Underlining
crossing
the
out,
word 9 shirts.
yeah, and crossing out what you don't need in the charts, like
Right,
crossing
don't
out
need the
shorts,
shorts.
crossing out sweater.
Any other problems that stick out to you that they had a hard time with, that they would need reteaching with?
Number 5.
Number 5, so which answer choice correctly completes the number sentence below? 6 times 80 equals 6 times blank times 10, which is being surrounded by parentheses.
And during the lesson, there wasn't any that had the equivalent equations on both sides, so I think that threw them off. But then I was kind of thinking about all the questions in the lesson. None of them had like a multiple of 10, like 80, and almost every question on these practice problems were multiples of 10. Like the activity 2 had 3 rows with 48 stickers, and then there was 7 rows with 23. They were doing really great with breaking it up, 40 and 8, 20 and 3, and then they got here and they were like, 80, how do I break up 80? It's already, in their minds, they kind of felt like it was already broken up because that's what we did in the lesson. And then, so I had to go and explain to one of mine, like, well, what's 6 times 80? That's 480. What would go on the other side that would make them both equal 480? So that was kind of how I had to quick, in the moment, kind of help a couple that struggled with it.
So addressing particularly question 5, because you all said 5 was the one they struggled with the most, how would you readdress that with reteaching tomorrow would you redress it whole group? Was it like a whole group kind of reteach, or is it one where you would pull in small group? And how would you reteach that to them? Because it looks like the lesson kind of was not laid out like the practice problem. Exactly. So
I think you could review with the whole group balancing equations, just to remind them of either side of the equal sign needs to be equal, but then in your small group, you could be more specific about how and why to break apart the 80 in this situation.
Because even just now, I just looked at the last problem that was not in the workbook, problem 3, had them with a balanced equation, but it was breaking up 25. So then they had to put 20 and 5. They didn't have to break up the 20. So I think that's what,
Well,
Like,
and it
they were
kept
so
saying
stuck on
in
the
the
examples from
lesson,
the lesson.
breaking up the tens and the ones,
Mm-hmm.
tens and the ones.
Yep.
Eight tens and ones on
And
all
then
the
this
slides.
threw them off.
So,
Yeah, that, yep.
that's a good problem. How would anybody like to model how you would reteach that with that particular group? What would you change up, or how would you reteach it with them?
The other thing is that doesn't match,
It's not exactly.
it's
the
not
same.
exactly the same.
But I guess, what I would do, I don't know how to write on this.
You can use the whiteboard next.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know in mine, I'm not gonna know how to do it, but I guess I would just show them this, and then this. And then say, okay, what's 4 times 25? And then we would do, what's gonna go here that would make this also be 100? So, we would know it has to be the 5. Look, this is what they did, they broke it up, 20 and 5. So now both equations equal 100, and I've broken it up.
Okay. So then looking at a practice problem, number 5, how is that different, I guess?
Different because it's 80, and so they're confused because they're not breaking, they're just thinking 80 is already broken up. It's already a multiple of 10. So then I would say, okay, but how can we break up 80? 80 times 10, obviously that part's not the same, but showing them that when we do have one that's a multiple of 10, we can still show it that it's a multiple of 10.
I did not show this, but this one student, which I like what she did, it's hard to, she put 8 and she plugged it in there, and then she drew like a little, like this equals 80. So I'm gonna make sure that I show this one,
Yeah.
what she did, and that she could have done one step further and, she was like one step away from showing how both sides were equal. She
Yeah.
just did that one step, but nobody else really did that. She was my only one, to show that that's the same as the other side, right?
Yeah.
I think they're confused when it comes to expressions and breaking it apart, and then tying this back to the box or the array method and how each part connects to each multiple,
Yes.
right? Each partial product connects to what they're actually
Matches with the
doing.
box method, yeah.
There was a lesson worksheet, I wanna say it was like day 1 from Diamond Stuff.
Oh, like the do nows?
No, it was like a sheet, like a
Oh,
project.
that we put in small groups, yeah.
Yeah, it's day 1, and it has the box, and it is like and part of the boxes are missing, and then it's like they have to write an expression for the missing parts, and so it gives them a lot of practice with breaking it apart,
So that would be a good
and what's
thing.
missing, and then you have to fill in it's like day 1, day 2, day 3.
Yep, those were ones I put in the small
Yeah.
group plans, yeah. So maybe that will be one that we can definitely use to the ones that need that extra practice. I had one like you too, Jocelyn, that wrote 8 times 10 is 80, like underneath it, and I had another friend that drew an arrow from the 6 times the 8 to make it 48, and then she knew that 80 times 6 was 480. So she was like one step away from showing that they were balanced as well.
Yeah.
So she was close.